During the year of 2024, we saw a lot of very high-profile releases from Cowboy Carter, Brat, Short and Sweet to the Tortured Poets Department. But amongst that crowded field of really, really good music, we saw a release of an album that told the story of hurt, loneliness, motherhood, and illness. It was touching in ways that I've never seen before and gave us a closer look into the mind of an artist that we saw go through a lot, but maybe didn't realize just how tough these events were. That album was called The Great Impersonator and was released in October of 2024 by an American singer-songwriter going by the pseudonym of Halsey. It opened to very mixed reception. Halsey's fandom really loved it, and some major music publications also were quite positive about it. But on the other hand, we saw a lot of people behave very, very weirdly about it. Maybe sometimes the general public is just not fit to hear or understand somebody's life story. Hello, my name is Freyr and I'm your favorite local forest gremlin, as well as a Polish sociology student and a big pop culture enthusiast. I'm mostly known for my Eurovision stuff, but as I stated in the very beginning of this channel, which was like in March, April, I think? April? Maybe. But I do not want to stick to just Eurovision. I am low-key a little scared about posting stuff that isn't Eurovision related, but also I just have to stay true to myself. Eurovision is only one of my many interests. I love Eurovision, but come on. Also, I do want to apologize for how long it took to get this video out. Despite my online activity, which mainly now boils down to reposting edits on TikTok, I am also a uni student. And as you may know, June is like the worst time to be a uni student. So yeah, I got buried in exams. I just came home from a statistics exam, which I am 100% sure I'm gonna fail, because what the hell was that?
How is this happening?
I do also want to apologize for how this whole setup looks like. I'm trying kind of something new here. I'm not in front of my bookshelf anymore, but that's mostly because if you watch those videos carefully, you know that I was sitting on the floor and it was hella uncomfortable. So now I stole this lovely, what's the word? Chair? It's not a chair. I don't know, this from my sister. And I'm gonna be working on this whole thing. I'm gonna be buying posters and printing stuff, so it's gonna look a little bit nicer. Please trust me, this is a work in progress. Bear with me, this is a completely transitional thing, but we'll get through it, and my videos are gonna start looking way better in just under a few weeks when I finally figure out how I want to present them. Before we start talking about the subject of this video, which I realize that I've already been yapping a lot, but I do want to encourage you to follow me on all of my other socials, which include Twitter, Tumblr, TikTok, and Instagram. And also, obviously, I really, really want to encourage you to subscribe to my channel and of course like this video. Now, going back to our topic, The Great Impersonator had a very mixed reception, and you might not trust me with covering it. Also, don't mind the fact that I'm covering it literally like 8 months or 9 months after it came out. This YouTube channel is fairly new and I just want to talk about it. I really, really need to do it. If you are worried about this analysis, let me present you my credentials. Being a Swiftie, so I can understand lyricism, and also I'm not gonna tell anybody that they have a main character syndrome because they had cancer. Hopefully that is enough for me to gain your trust. This is also the point of the video that I would like to remind you that the discussions we're gonna be having today are gonna be around topics that can be triggering for folks. So if discussions around, for example, mental illness, parental trauma, or death are somehow triggering to you, I would encourage you to consider not watching this video. But if that is not the case, let's get familiarized with the concept of this incredible piece of art. The Great Impersonator is an album that tells Halsey's story in a way that low-key confused some people, but I also argue that they probably didn't lose much sleep over it either. This is a concept album that tells multiple stories. Obviously, we hear about stuff like Halsey struggles with her health or her relationships, as well as fame. However, many people were confused why she chose to talk about these topics while also doing the now famous impersonations. And to that, I would say I have several answers. Firstly, this allows her to experiment with different styles on this album more than ever before. And I mean, okay, this album, genre-wise, is so incredibly versatile. You have the classic ballad moments, you have the Evanescence-inspired banger, we go yeehaw for a bit, we get some more pop songs, and we also see glimpses of folk. And finally, I feel like this is, in a way, almost like a commentary on how the music industry works. When you are an artist entering the music industry, you get compared a lot to the others. It's hard to stand out on your own because at every angle there are people who are just gonna be comparing you to multiple other artists. This impersonation theme can be seen as almost embracing that, but also trying to find yourself whilst emulating others, which is something that a lot of artists unfortunately have to do. Her story is almost hidden behind these impersonations, which is something that we see a lot in other artists' work as well. And if you really think about it, this is not the first time we see an artist talk about something like this. We see, for example, this woman here, Taylor Swift, very, very famous song called Clara Bow off of the Tortured Poets Department, literally is about that. Now, trust me, I would love to avoid the whole main character energy syndrome thing, but I'm afraid that we really can't. However, I want to do it after having refreshed the entire album for myself and also for you. So firstly, we're gonna get into the 18 tracks that form the standard version of The Great Impersonator. Along the way, we're gonna be discussing the lyrics, the music, as well as the impersonations and the grander context of these songs. So grab a snack, grab some tissues, trust me, you're gonna need them, and let's get into the beautiful but also heartbreaking world of The Great Impersonator by Halsey.
I'm the only girl alive in LA County.
Only Girl Alive in LA is the opening track of this album, and it is inspired by the one and the only Marilyn Monroe. This was actually the last impersonation that we got to see from Halsey, and they wrote the following words about Marilyn. For the final day, I am honoring the most impersonating woman in history, a woman who eventually had to impersonate herself day after day, asking the question, want to see me become her? I mean, opening an album called The Great Impersonator by impersonating the most impersonated woman in history is kind of a genius move. Halsey also tells us about the double life that Marilyn had to lead. There was Marilyn, but then again, there was Marilyn Monroe. Halsey shows us here that there are two versions of herself. We get Halsey, you know, the star, the singer-songwriter, and then there's Ashley. One interesting thing to me about this song is definitely the opening verse. I'm the only girl alive in LA County. I'm the only one who sees. I wake up every day in some new kind of suffering. I've never known a day of peace. This can be understood in a plethora of ways, but in my opinion, this kind of critiques the people in the industry that merge with their famous persona. But Halsey clearly finds a difference between Ashley and Halsey. Because I don't know if I could sell out my own funeral, at least not at this point in time. And if I ever try to leave behind my body, well, at least I know it was never mine, it was never mine. This to me shows the pressure of being a part of the music industry, the kind of constant need to be on the top, be ahead of the game, be selling out shows, selling out arenas, striving for more. Her body is not hers anymore because it belongs to the greater public. If she leaves it behind, nothing really changes. The impersonation of Halsey lives on even if the actual impersonator dies. We see more of that in the next verse. Well, I'm the only girl alive in New York City. I left my wallet on the train. Since I no longer even have a driver's license, I guess that means I have no name. And then of course, if she has no ID, she no longer has a name. She no longer has an identity. I think I'm special because I cut myself wide open, as if it's honorable to bleed. But I'm not lucky and I know I wasn't chosen. The world keeps spinning without me. Here, Halsey references seppuku, which is basically an act where a samurai would cut himself open in order to restore the honor of his family. But here, cutting oneself open probably represents being vulnerable through music. You're literally cutting yourself open and showing everybody what's going on in your private life, but it's not honorable because the world is shortly going to move on with or without you opening up about your struggles. I told my mother I would die by 27, and in a way I sort of did. This thing I love has grown demanding and obsessive, and it wants more than I can give, than I can give, than I can give. Here, Halsey references the 27 Club, which is a list of musicians who died at that age, which is surprisingly long. She also says that she did sort of die. She receives her T-cell lymphoproliferative disorder diagnosis, sorry if I butchered the name, on her 20th birthday. The thing she loves, aka making music, just keeps on wanting more and growing more demanding. It's like a beast that wants to eat all the time. The more you give it, the more the beast wants afterwards, to the point that Halsey just even can't really keep up and she feels like she's being used. This track is quite chill musically, but then we get to the very loud, energetic, and almost, I'd say, confusing outro. I was kind of wondering like why it was even there, and the best idea I could come up with was that it was a way of channeling frustration. The entire song seems very calm and almost frivolous at times, with the way that the vocal seems almost joyful. But then everything breaks and we see the emotions of Halsey just fully explode. This track sets some very important themes for this album, but it also, in my opinion, explains very well why we're doing the impersonations in the first place. I personally really love that song. I think it is absolutely incredible, and I think that it's heavily underrated actually. Ego is the second track on this album. It was also a single and received a music video. It was inspired by Dolores O'Riordan, who you might recognize as the lead singer of a very iconic band called the Cranberries. This song kind of picks up on the themes that Only Living Girl in LA sets up for us, but in a very direct way. I'm caught up in the everyday trend, tied up by invisible thread, walking down a razor thin edge, and I wake up tired, think I'm better off dead. This to me almost feels like a confirmation that the celebrity persona is almost like a prison. You have to be very active, and the more that you accomplish, the more you have to do. I think that I should try to kill my ego, because if I don't, my ego might kill me. I'm all grown up, but somehow lately I'm acting like a fucking baby. I'm really not as happy as I seem. The ego here is clearly Halsey herself. It almost feels like a duel to life and death between Halsey and Ashley, and if you saw the music video for Ego, you know that that's literally what the visual representation of the song was. I do also find the baby line really interesting, considering that this is how many people treated Halsey after this album came out, like a fucking baby. The narrative was almost that she was like whining and trauma dumping on people, when I don't necessarily think that's what it was, but again, we're gonna get back to that conversation a little bit later. I don't like the lie I'm living. I'm way too nice and too forgiving. I want to go back to the beginning when it all felt right. This just serves as confirmation of what I was saying before, but it also shows us the nostalgia towards the so-called easier days, which is something that's very understandable, considering that many artists don't feel happy with the corporate world of music, because suddenly the entire pleasure of making art is just gone, because it's replaced by numbers, contracts, and who knows what else. This song is a confirmed banger despite its depressing content, and you're gonna hear me say that many times in this video. Like, come on, it's so good. The way this chorus just hits here is truly amazing. This is a very straightforward song with its message, so I also understand why this was a single and why this song seems to have been received, I'd say a little bit better than some of the others, especially when you compare it to the next one. Dog Years was inspired by PJ Harvey, who Halsey called one of the most influential artists of her lifetime. This song apparently started as a poem after Halsey's dog died, and it's without a doubt one of the darkest songs on the entire album. They said, "I have a universal blood type. I can give to anyone in need, but only receive from someone exactly like me." I feel like this can be understood very literally, but also you can use this as a metaphor that she is very empathetic towards other people, but for some reason, she doesn't get that energy back. You know, other people cannot be empathetic towards her. Oh, and also the line of, "And I'm trying to be positive, but oh, it's really hard." Like, come on. I know that some people didn't like that line, but like, come on, it's genius. It's so incredibly genius. Won't you shoot me in the yard, put me down like a lame horse, or send me to the farm where all the dogs go? This whole song is almost like this plead, a begging for it all to end, and it's incredibly depressing to see. Halsey actually had some words to say about this song during one of her concerts. She said, "Dog Years is about getting fucked, bound, beaten, and gagged by a sadist dom of a god, and begging, pleading with all your might that it will stop if you just behave. And if it doesn't stop, at least just let me die. Dog Years is about being leashed to the stairwell, trapped in the house, lighting up at the sound of the doorknob jingling, hoping your terrible master have finally arrived home with a smile for the first time in years to ask you, wanna go for a ride in the car? But he doesn't. He tightens the leash. You've done everything right and you've behaved yourself. Sat when told, ignore the mailman, down girl, but it doesn't matter. You're gonna waste away on the stairwell. You're gonna dream about the farm where you've heard the other dogs get to go when their owner, God, doesn't want them anymore." God, despite being cruel to her, still doesn't want to get rid of her, which makes her feel even worse. And we also see her almost like try to provoke him, which still doesn't end up working. Well, they say all dogs go to heaven. Well, what about a bitch? Then she also shows us one of the reasons why she just wants to go. Because I'm not old, but I am tired. I am not strong. I'm very weak. This song, okay. So The Great Impersonator is not an album that I listen to daily because it is just very overwhelmingly sad. And there are a lot of songs that even if I'm listening to it and I purposely put it on, I still skip because I'm just not in the mood for crying in, for example, public transit. But this is one of the songs, and I'd say probably the only song on the entire album that I skip because it actually makes me feel uncomfortable. But I also feel like that's the point. I remember genuinely battling that skip instinct when I heard the whining dog sound in the back as the song was ending. I was just like, no, I cannot do this. And in my humble opinion, I think this is one of the saddest, but also one of the deepest songs on the entire album. I think that the writing on it is genuinely incredible, and I think that the way that the music is composed to also give you that eerie, very depressive but also cruel and almost distorted image is incredible, and only shows you how much artistry and how much skill went into this album.
Please God, I don't wanna be sick. I don't wanna hurt too many boys.
And now we encounter our first Letter to God, the 1974 edition to be exact, which is inspired by Cher. There are 3 letters to God on this album, and they form this kind of like trilogy. They show how Halsey's view on life and God changes over time. I saw a deer that must have gotten hit and made me start to cry. Did he have a mom and dad? And do they argue just like mine? She shows us how her home life looks like through the metaphor of the deer. However, what I do think is more interesting here is that she equates herself to the deer that got hit by a car. This song explores her family life even further with the following lines. There's a boy I went to school with who had leukemia at 5. Now his parents give him everything. They never yell or fight. They never make him cut his hair because they're happy he survived. She gives us a contrast of her family and then this boy's family, which stayed intact despite the very tough challenge of the sickness, that being, of course, leukemia. One thing that I also want to point out is that over this specific part of the song, you can hear voice notes of Halsey's son playing in the background, which to me kind of indicate that this is how Halsey wants to raise their son. They want to break this kind of very toxic parental environment cycle, and they want to be more like the parents of that boy who had leukemia, and they want to give their son a environment when he can feel loved and accepted no matter what. It was enough to be alive. When I was little, I was jealous, and I'd say a prayer at night. Well, I'd say, please God, I wanna be sick. I don't wanna hurt, so get it over with quick. Please God, I wanna be loved. I don't wanna be somebody that they wanna get rid of. It's a desperate attempt to get love from her parents, despite the fact that it's at the cost of her own health. And as we know, these prayers came true, just not in the way that maybe Halsey intended. I love the concept of Letters to God. I think that having this trilogy of songs spread around the album with the same theme and kind of repeating lines is really, really smart. And it's actually one of my favorite concepts that Halsey commits to on this project. One thing I don't necessarily understand, and here I want to hear your opinions on it, is the Cher reference, because this is inspired by Cher, and specifically in the announcement in the impersonation post, Halsey said that this song was inspired by Dark Lady, I believe, or she said that like Dark Lady is one of her favorite songs of all time. And I don't really know like what the Cher reference here is. So if any of you maybe know, please let me know in the comments below, because I would really like to learn. And maybe there's something about Cher that I just don't know. And that's why I wasn't able to connect the dots, but I'm also really intrigued to learn. Track 5 is called Panic Attack, and it is inspired by the one and the only Stevie Nicks, specifically from the Fleetwood Mac Rumours era. This is one of these main sad bangers on the album, because on my initial listen, I was just vibing to this because this instrumental is incredible. And then I started hearing the lyrics and I was like, oh, well. This song is about doubting the love of another person. Halsey isn't sure if she can trust that person, and that results in her feeling very anxious. My body carries sadness that my brain cannot yet see, and I've been holding on to memories in my stomach and my teeth. This shows off the trauma from previous relationships and how that trauma gets carried over to the newer ones. Is it love or a panic attack? Is a heavy heart too much to hold? I don't know, but it's late, so I'm taking you home. This lack of solid ground, or what seems to be the lack of solid ground, makes Halsey very anxious, but she still takes this person home. Later, we also see that this anxiety could almost be mistaken for Halsey's symptoms of her illness. I had to call the doctor, left a note on his machine, because I tripped when we went walking and I felt it in my spleen. Now I think I need a plot test or an antihistamine, because you make me fucking nervous and I don't know what it all means. Antihistamines are very commonly used to treat mast cell activation syndrome, which is a condition that Halsey has been diagnosed with. This almost suggests that the pain could be a result of the illness, but as Halsey states, she's not necessarily sure. And I think you're a danger to my health, or so it seems. That can be for multiple reasons, again, because stress doesn't improve one's health. But also, you have to take into account that Halsey isn't sure about what this relationship is. And so she kind of has to consider the worst possible scenario. Is it love or a panic attack? Would you mind if I asked you on the phone? This very clearly to me suggests that Halsey is afraid of being close to this person, because they are still unsure about what the nature of this relationship is. And so talking through the phone, aka keeping a distance, seems like a much safer idea. This song is just anxiety put to music, in a really, really stunning piece of music at that. This song is probably amongst my favorites on the entire project. Although, okay, I do find it very hard to like rank this album, considering, you know, how personal to Halsey it is, but Panic Attack is definitely one of my favorite songs. It's so soothing and calming, despite the topic being like literal anxiety. And I actually think that there's meaning to that. I don't know about you, but whenever I'm feeling anxious about something or nervous, or whenever I'm having a bad day, music is the one thing that helps me to calm down or forget about the stresses of the world around me. Music, in a way, is like the biggest superpower that humanity has, and the effect that it has on people is truly mesmerizing. Like, I don't know where we would be as a society without music.
If I knew it was the end of the world, could you?
The End was the first single for this album, and it was inspired by Joni Mitchell, who Halsey called one of her favorite lyricists of all time. And the fact that this was the first song that we got to hear from this album, in my opinion, makes a lot of sense. So Halsey has been kind of MIA on the internet before she came back with this song, and that kind of later snowballed into the eventual release of this album called The Great Impersonator. But this was also when she came out and talked about her illness for the first time. This song addresses most of the themes that we see throughout this album, so in my opinion, it makes sense for it to be the first single. After you hear The End, I would say that you kind of know what you're signing up for, despite the fact that I am pretty confident that you're not going to be ready for the incredibly strong kicks in the stomach that some of these songs are going to be performing on you, including the end. Every couple of years now, a doctor says I'm sick, pulls out a brand new bag of tricks, and then they lay it on me. And at first it was my brain, then a skeleton in pain. This is the reinforcement of what we heard of before, which is that Halsey struggles with her mental health, and then the physical health kind of follows suit. The bag of tricks is also kind of symbolic for this era. I mean, the tour for The Great Impersonator is literally called For My Last Trick. And I also feel like this could be a reference to the fact that Halsey thought that The Great Impersonator would be a post-mortem release. If you knew it was the end of the world, could you love me like a child? Could you hold me in the dark? If you knew it was the end of the world, would you like to stay a while? Would you leave when it gets hard? This is another reinforcement of what we hear in Panic Attack about the uncertainty around this relationship that Halsey is in. So I ran into the clinic and I asked to see the man with his white coat and his stethoscope like a snake around his hand. And I told him I'm not bitter because I finally found a lover who's better for my liver and now I'll finally recover. The white coat wearing man is of course a doctor, and the snake around his neck could probably be a reference to either Asclepius from the Greek mythology, you know, the god of medicine, but also could be a reference to the Garden of Eden. This song has a few references to the Bible, so I actually think that this could be the, I guess, more likely scenario that this is a Garden of Eden reference. Obviously, in that story, the snake was the devil, and this could show the kind of distrust in experts and medicine and the craft that they're performing, because it hasn't been helping Halsey so far. Later, she says that she finally found a lover with whom she doesn't have to drink in order to have a good time or be able to bear his presence, you know. And I told him he could stay right where he stood, but I don't know if he should, because once my God destroys the flesh, then there's the flood. So this is another biblical references. Basically, after the flood in Genesis, God vowed to never destroy the earth again using a flood. But here, Halsey seems to be communicating that her life is already destroyed, despite the fact that the flood hasn't even come yet. Later in the next chorus, she asks her partner if he would like to build an ark with her. And by doing that, she is also relating this song to the story of Noah. The ark here symbolizes a place of safety where you can hide whilst the entire world is just crumbling around you. We could sail on broken driftwood through the sopping wet terrain and count the buildings and the bodies getting swallowed by the rain. And in the water, there's the doctor who didn't listen to my claim. What a shame, he's circling a drain. We see the metaphor of the ark getting continued here, but I really want to highlight the doctor line, because this is very likely referencing the first doctor that Halsey went to when they were suspecting that something was wrong, and then the doctor basically dismissed their claims, which caused Halsey not to seek treatment earlier. I do also think that this could be referencing the fact that AFOP individuals are statistically less likely to be believed when, for example, they suspect that they have some sort of illness or they have some sort of medical issue than AMAP individuals are. And so the doctor who didn't listen to Halsey's claim is now circling the drain. And I know it's not the end of the world, but could you pick me up at 8? Because my treatment starts today. I mean, come on. This, on my first listen, broke me fully. She's built an arc with this person and she's now trusting them to drive her to that doctor that she maybe doesn't trust the most. You can, of course, build an arc with this person, but then that person themselves can be your arc and can help you survive the flood. And I think that's such a beautiful way to end this song. It does feel like there's this glimmer of happiness in it. Like there's this glimmer of hope. And I think that's beautiful.
That I believe in magic and I believe in sin.
Out of all the songs on this project, I think this one hit me in ways that honestly I was not expecting at all. This track was inspired by Linda Ronstadt, and it's about Halsey's son and the experience of her watching him grow up. And as far as I can see, the fruit I bear is sweet, but the apple is rolling real far from the tree and falling down the hill so full of love and carefree. I wonder if the world will treat him any better than it treated me. Her son is similar to her. Earlier, she even mentions that he used to look like his dad and now he looks like her. But it's also very, very clear that because the apple is falling real from the tree, their lived experiences are drastically different from each other. Halsey also wonders if the world is going to be kinder to him than it was to her. And with my roots above and my branches down below, please tell my boy I love him so. This further shows us the inverted lives that Halsey and their son have. Her branches are below and her roots are above. She's literally like a reverted tree. But then again, it seems like because the roots are above, they are able to find their place in her son. It seems like he's the person that grounds her. I believe in magic and I believe in sin. I still believe in heaven if they never let me in. I started to believe in love the day I met my little twin. I think I might start trying because I haven't been. Those first two lines, in my opinion, call back to the dog years in which she was almost like asking to be led into heaven. But here she has such a totally different outlook on heaven. She doesn't really care about being led into that place because she finally found magic here on earth. Her little twin is her son, the person that finally made her believe in magic and who looks so much like her. And thanks to him, Halsey is also able to experience the feeling of true love. My mama's getting old. Well, it's contagious and you'll catch it like a cold. She won't admit it, but it's something that I know, because every year that passes for me passes her 100-fold. This is another topic of the song, which is aging. Halsey looks at their mother and they're surprised to see that she's aging, and aging might be contagious. I mean, we all age, but when it's somebody like your parent, it's almost weird and confusing seeing the wrinkles forming or the gray hairs coming through. It's very weird because how? This is the person that we've known our entire lives. Why are they aging? Why are they changing? Back in the day, my dad and I would share a laugh at all of her mistakes, but that alliance didn't save me from her fate. No, I didn't last till 28. This whole part was actually explained by Halsey in her interview with Odyssey. This, she said, is about how both she and her dad would sometimes join forces to ridicule her mother because of how much she wanted her father's approval. Became a single mom, just crushed under the weight of a child growing faster than I think that I can take. I love him anyway, and I remind myself a time will come when he sees me turn gray and realize it's too late, like I did with my mother. So now I tell her to her face. They clearly show the similarities between these two fates. That cognitive dissonance that Halsey is currently experiencing because of their mother is something that their son is also one day going to have to experience. And because time is flying and we are all aging, we don't have unlimited time on this planet. This is almost a lesson of appreciating those who are around you and loving them from the start. Halsey says, please tell my mom I love her so. Oh my goodness, the song is so good. I'm gonna start crying. Hold on. And I might start trying because I haven't been. This is the line that ends the second chorus. And to me, it clearly indicates those kind of almost like intrusive thoughts that most people have when they become parents and when they care about their kids, which is, am I a good parent? Have I been doing things right? The song ends with this sing-songy, almost like childish singing. This, in my opinion, sounds like a melody that a mother would sing to her child to calm them down or put them to sleep or something like that. So it's almost like a direct attempt of trying to become that better parent that we just talked about. I could genuinely make an entire video just about this song. It's so absolutely beautiful. For a project that is so sad and overwhelming, this was the song that broke me in ways that I wasn't ready for, but also in such different ways from all of the other songs. Mind you, my first listening experience to The Great Impersonator was on a train while it was also raining outside. So I was sitting there watching the raindrops flow down the window while also just fully sobbing because of the song. This song is about love, but it's done in a way that I don't think we see often. It's so carefree. It almost, in my opinion, kind of resembles the kind of attitude that Halsey's son has now towards life. It's a big retrospective on those family relationships done in such a unique and beautiful way. It's about appreciating the ones who are there for you when the times get dark and those who have been there for you from the very beginning. I don't know why I'm like this, but every time we get a song with a topic like this, I'm speechless. So yeah, and the biggest kick in the stomach was hearing Halsey's son in the background.
My mama's getting old.
Criminal, actually criminal. Like, how dare you? I feel like for my own sake, I just have to move on because we have so many more songs to go over and I cannot keep on talking about just I Believe in Magic for the rest of this video. But trust me, if I could, I would. And I think that this is one of the most beautiful songs that I've honestly ever heard.
I don't wanna be somebody you're trying to get rid of.
Letter to God 1983 is the second installment in our Letter to God trilogy, and this one was inspired by Bruce Springsteen. This song is almost like a diary entry. It's very retrospective, kind of recalling the story of Halsey's life and how they felt like it was just falling apart. I left home and moved to Brooklyn, where my boyfriend had a place, and he had track marks on his arms, but the most angelic face. I watched my friends die before 21 and now I'm 28. This is the story of Halsey moving in with their abusive boyfriend at 17, who was also a drug addict, which is symbolized here by the track marks on his arm. He was bad for Halsey, but also had that angelic face. And that's something that I feel like really encapsulates like abusive relationships and why they don't fall apart quicker. We also see another reference to the 27 Club here, which was mentioned in Only Girl Living in LA. But also, this, in my opinion, is a foreshadowing of what's to come on the following track here, which is called Hometown. I'm at the doctor's every day because I can't stop losing weight, and now I'm the one with needles in my arms and in my legs. I'm making jokes about the blood test and I'm planning my estate. We see the story of her health journey retold as well. Now she's the one with the needles and the marks on her arms, but for drastically different reasons. She tries to make light of the situation that she is in, but at the same time, she's planning out her inheritance. Hopeless jokes can only brighten the situation by a bit. And I don't want to blame the child, but I have to speculate if this could all just be an answer to those prayers that came delayed. Because I never would have said it if I knew I'd have to wait until the moment I was happy, then it all disintegrates. Here I do also want to clear some things up because I did see some people say on the internet when this album was released that this was a line referencing Halsey's son. And it very clearly isn't. Letters to God are a trilogy, and this is clearly meant to be a callback to the first Letter to God, 1974 edition to be exact, where Halsey literally asks to be sick in order to receive love from their parents. That prayer didn't come true until she finally found happiness. Then it came back like a very, very cruel joke. Please God, I don't want to be sick. I don't want to hurt, so get it over with quick. Please God, I want to be loved. Don't want to be somebody that you're trying to get rid of. This is a direct paraphrase of Letter to God 1974, but with one small change. She doesn't want to be sick. The rest is literally the same. She still wants the same things, but now she has reverted the wish that she made as a child. This song ends with Halsey saying thank you and the crowd applauding.
Thank you.
And that left me with a lot of thoughts. To me, this feels like a very, very direct commentary on how the public treats artists who are sharing, their personal struggles, and how they look at the suffering of artists who use their life in order to make music and make a living. They applaud because they just saw a performance, but they don't see much more in it. They also don't seem to be moved by the lyrics that they heard. They don't look below the surface. They don't seem to hear the cries for help. They only care about the glitz and the glam of the music industry. And this is something that Halsey talks a lot about on this album, specifically in songs like Lucky or The Great Impersonator, which we're gonna get into. But for now, I think I'm gonna leave you with that, and we're gonna go to track number 9.
There ain't no reason on this earth I'd go back to my hometown.
Seeing the impersonations coming in, this was 100% my favorite, and this was the one that made me the most hyped up for this album. That being obviously the impersonation from Hometown, which was the one and the only Dolly Parton. And listen, I was not disappointed because this song is absolutely incredible, but also this is one of those like little deceivers in a way like Panic Attack was. Because after the first 8 tracks, I was feeling very devastated on my initial listen, so I was kind of hoping for a pick-me-up, and I kind of got it. I mean, when you hear the first few chords coming in or the first few backing vocal samples, this is a party. This is like a yeehaw anthem. This is beautiful. This seems like a coming-of-age movie song. She sings about something. You're just over there vibing to it. It's a fun time. And then you start hearing the lyrics and you're like, oh, well, that's awkward. But listen, I have said it before and I'll say it again. I love sad bangers. But I mean, I don't know why it took me so long to understand what this song was truly about when the first lines are literally, Davey died in the summertime in a hot boxed car with a seatbelt around his neck and a needle in his arm. So this song tells the story of people who died while Halsey was growing up and, being a high schooler, and also her during her childhood and during her teenagehood. Hotbox car refers to people smoking marijuana in enclosed spaces to maximize its effect. So I think Davey died from an overdose. We see how Halsey and other people around her looked at life back then, with lines like, back then, the kids from Alda County, we would walk out in the heat, along the train tracks with our paperbacks and gravel in our feet. In our heads, we picked a husband from the 100 men we knew, but I kissed a poster of a pop star and checked my breasts in case they grew. This song shows us the kind of carefree but at the same time stressful lives of a teenager. The walking along the train tracks, choosing husbands is kind of a way of, spending time together, having fun, I guess. But then there's also the pressure of figuring out your sexuality, your body changing, experiencing crushes, so on and so forth, which creates stress. There ain't a reason on this earth that I'd go back to my hometown. Summer in the clouds, Davey's running for a touchdown. The crowd appears and his mother cheers. She's waving from the field. And he's evergreen at 17 for the last 11 years. So this is the attempt of trying to separate oneself from the hometown, from the past. There's nothing to come back to. The only thing there are the people who died. I never felt like anyone. I was a paradoxical lie. I didn't think that I was special, but I was too afraid to die. Like the others from my house school, all those sad suburban ghosts, trapped in a cross next to a highway, while the rest of us get old. Here, Halsey shows the insecurities of teenagers growing up, which feel overwhelming, but are quite common and most of us go through them. She was scared of death, despite not necessarily feeling special. That was a feeling shared by many people around her, as it seems. The difference is that they are now trapped inside crosses next to highways, which very clearly signifies that they have passed. The American dream means staying young forever, in a picture in a pamphlet, getting yellow from the weather. And years will pass since science class and I might forget your name. But then the crow's feet come, the kingdom come, well, you always look the same. The first part refers to pamphlets that are being given out at funerals with the picture of the recently passed and the words in loving memory of. So the American dream, which is supposed to be celebrating youth, here is also related to dying young. Then later, Halsey says that when the crow's feet come, the people who died young will still look the same. Now, crow's feet are a very specific kind of wrinkles that form around your eyes when you laugh and cry and experience other emotions like that. She will have those wrinkles when she dies because she has lived a life full of emotions, but someone like Davey won't because his life was cut short. This whole song is just so complex and I feel like there are so many ways of possibly interpreting it. To me, it almost feels like it's tearing down that image of youth and teenagehood as something that's nostalgic, because for Halsey, it clearly wasn't. When you add to it the sound of the song, it does kind of feel like something that would come out of like a coming of age movie about a high school in the suburbs or a small town or something like that. Those times of our lives are really glamorized by something like the movies, but they are rarely perfect, like in the movies. This song really, really leaves you thinking, and I really like that. It makes you reflect on how, for example, your teenagehood looked like. Personally, on my first listen, this was one of my favorite songs of the entire project, even after I realized what it was about. And I think that it honestly still remains as one of my favorites. I think that this song is incredible. Hi. So I had to take a break in recording and I'm back next day in a slightly different t-shirt and with this on my face. Basically, it was so hot that I had to stop filming because I was just about to fully melt. And now I chose a perfect moment to continue recording because there is a literal storm outside. So if you hear any thunders throughout this video, that's what that is. I also decided that it would be fun to try and emulate Halsey for this video, considering that, I'm talking about them. And I tried to recreate the the like look they had for one of like the promotional pictures for the Great Impersonator, but it ended up looking like this because I can't hold a goddamn makeup brush to save my life. But aside from now looking like that thing from the Saw movies,
Trauma, PTSD, trauma, generational trauma.
I have also slightly fixed the camera angle, so I should be a little less of Sander now. And also, it is a little darker because, again, the storm outside, but hopefully the lighting will be fine. I don't know. But anyway, we are back to talk about I Never Loved You, which is the 10th track off of The Great Impersonator, inspired by the one and the only Kate Bush. Take a shot every time I say the one, the only in this video, honestly. This song picks up on some of the themes that we've seen, for example, in Panic Attack, which is how hard it is to love somebody when you have suffered through some sort of emotional pain. And this song also presents us with a hypothetical scenario of what happens if Halsey doesn't, survive the fight for her health. The surgeon said she had a hole in her heart, but it wasn't her fault. It was there from the start, trying to love you through an open wound, because everything I put inside there just fell right through. The theme of this song could probably be the best summarized by that second line that I just read. If there is some sort of unresolved hurt, which in this case I'm assuming is gonna be the hole in the heart, it's hard to suddenly switch to a different emotional setting. Her heart is just simply too damaged to hold that love for another person. And I hold the parts together with some pressure and glue. This, in my opinion, means that she is really trying to survive, to keep that love, but pressure and glue is, it's a very temporary solution that is gonna fail one way or another, and it's gonna fail soon. So now you can take the money, you can get on a plane to a beautiful island, build a house in my name. You can donate all the money to somebody in pain, and you can rest your head down and not feel any shame. So this is that hypothetical scenario that I was talking about earlier, in which Halsey details how her partner could move on if she died, and how they would be absolved of any guilt that could form in them. She's almost trying to excuse this person, and later she goes on to say that she never loved them. Thus, they should not feel guilty. I took up chasing you down road 22, because you never listened and I'm terrible too. You kept on driving far away from the issues. If you stopped, I would have kissed you. This shows that this relationship was very complicated and they weren't really getting along, but Halsey was more than down to resolve those issues. Flash of light, heat of fire, head on concrete and the screeching of tires. Sound of sirens, rush of pain. I almost thought I heard you call my name. This is a very heartbreaking line in my opinion, because even when Halsey seems to be in an accident, she isn't sure if her partner is actually calling her name. She thinks that she just imagined it because of the complicated place that the relationship is in. This song, of course, being a hypothetical scenario, made it a little harder to analyze. However, I do think that people need to pay more attention to it because it's a really, really good song. This instrumental is absolutely gorgeous. It is very soft and very vulnerable, but it also has that urgency that fits with the theme of the car crash or the hospital, and I actually think that serves to further the imagery that Halsey here is presenting. I really love this song.
Say that God makes no mistakes, but I might disagree.
And now we have reached my favorite song on the entire project. Darwinism is our 11th track, and it was inspired by the one and the only, again, David Bowie. This song is an unforgettable listening experience. I will never forget listening to Darwinism for the first time. This song kind of shows how Halsey doesn't feel like she fits in with the rest of the society. Other people have evolved the correct way, and then there's Halsey on the sideline. There's lots of fish out in the pond, in the oceans and the rivers and in all the waterfalls. But if I'm made for land and not the sea at all, could I crawl and find some kind Neanderthal? So the first lines here are a reference to the popular saying there's lots of fish in the pond, often used to people after they go through a breakup to cheer them up and say that, oh, another person is gonna come your way and you're gonna be fine. And there is a lot of fish in the pond, in the oceans, or in the waterfalls. But Halsey doesn't feel like she's made for the watery environments. She isn't sure, but she is also thinking about the alternate possibilities. She feels like she's alienated from society and thus wants to start looking for a soulmate somewhere else. I actually think that there's also meaning to the fact that she is looking for a Neanderthal. Because she is a Neanderthal, in her own words, she is too flawed for the society that was built by Homo sapiens. That difference between Halsey and the rest of society probably refers to her cancer diagnosis and how that changed others' outlook on her. She references that further in these lines. I let it show and scare my suitors far away, leave them traumatized with visions of its glow behind my face. People who find out that she has a chronic illness react negatively, and that further impacts negatively her relationship with those people. The glow could also symbolize the butterfly-shaped rash that is oftentimes the symptom of having lupus. They say that God makes no mistakes, but I might disagree. When everybody is supposed to be perfect and created in an image of God, Halsey doesn't feel like that's the case for them. I also think that the earlier mention of Neanderthal could be important here because religion and science oftentimes try to combat each other. And when Darwin first came out with his theory of evolution, it was mainly the Christian church that didn't necessarily like that because, well, this theory was going against most of their teachings. So because God's creations are meant to be perfect and Halsey isn't, that means that religion lied to them and that there is no such thing as a perfect divine being. I watched them build society, domesticated land. It goes according to the plan. While they're in paradise, I'm exiled in the sand. This shows how the civilization is growing whilst Halsey is still on an exile from it. I also feel like we could relate this line to, for example, people who are neurodivergent or people who are queer. I feel like that's a feeling that is shared by a lot of people who don't fit into the cis, heteronormative, neurotypical society that we kind of have gotten used to. You all know something that I don't know. You all learned something that I fear I'll never know. You all grew body parts I feel I never grow. This comes back to the evolutionary theme of the song because she herself feels like she's flawed and she sees other people who have it all figured out. She's mad at them. Well, I was born all by myself. It's not unlikely that I'll die that way as well. They were born unlike anybody else, and this refers to the fact that Halsey doesn't feel like there's anybody that understands them. They were brought into this world alone, and the possibility of that stance changing is very small. This song, every single line of the song is just packed full of metaphors. This is another one that I could honestly just have an entire video about because of how insane this song is. It's so uncanny, so eerie, but so like angry as well. You can feel the hurt, you can feel the anger, and you can also almost like see that scary aura that makes Halsey feel separate from the rest of society and that scares other people. The song, through its instrumental, already kind of sets this theme of difference, this theme of alienation, and this is just the epitome of musical genius to me. Like this song, this is one of the best songs I've ever heard in my life. This was a life-changing experience to listen to this for the first time. Track number 12 is called Lonely is the Muse, and it's probably the most like popular song off of this album. This one was inspired by Evanescence, and I mean, we just talked about Darwinism. Talk about first impressions. I'm not necessarily like a metal fan, and I probably never will be, but my God, my jaw was on the floor when I first heard this. Obviously, the lyrical content is important here as well, but the instrumental itself, like, music was just invented. Do I even have to say anything else? These screams at the end as well. Chills every time. I also love that this song seems to build into this like pure release of just frustration, anger. It feels almost like a cathartic experience in a way. I spent years becoming cool, and in one single second you can make a decade of my efforts disappear. They spent years trying to build a career and image, feel like they are cool, but this person can just show up and fully cancel out all of these efforts, make them feel like lesser than, despite the fact that they've been working on feeling better about themselves for a decade. That kind of shows you how abusive relationships can work. It can be however incredible you are, but some people have a way of downplaying your achievements to make you feel like you're lesser than. And I can always reassemble to fit perfectly for you or anybody that decides that I'm of use. While I was researching this video, a popular theory that came along was the fact that this song references Mnemosyne. She was the goddess of memory in Greek mythology and would inspire artists to write, for example, songs. Here, the muse is being used for the purpose of creating art, but after that art gets created, she's immediately discarded. She's being used in many different ways, inspires many different kinds of music, is being used by many different artists, but sooner than later, she gets abandoned, becomes the lonely muse, and then just waits for another artist to pick her up, and then the whole cycle just repeats. So where do I go in the process when I'm just an apparatus? I've inspired platinum records, I've earned platinum airline status. So an apparatus is basically like a set of equipment that is used to perform a specific task. So if she is just a tool, that almost like denies her humanity, and after she gets discarded, there's no place for her to go because she's not a person anymore, she's an object. She's helped these people earn incredible success, like for example the platinum records, but later she still gets discarded, and we see that further in lines like, "And I mined a couple diamonds from the stories in my head, but I'm reduced to just a body, here in someone else's bed." So the diamonds are going to be referring to certificates that artists receive for their songs when they are certified diamond by the RIAA. She's a tool to give money to these artists and get them satisfaction, but isn't seen as much more. "I will fill your life with sounds. I'll be a wind chime in the window, catching light to throw around." This means that Halsey is gonna shine for that artist who they are inspiring. They're gonna throw the light their way. That light could be a metaphor for popularity and success that you can get when, for example, say your music goes viral or does well on the charts. "And when you're done, you can discard me, like the others always do. And I will nurse my wounds until another artist needs me new." So this shows the hopelessness of being one's muse, because even after you've been discarded by so many people, you don't develop like a will to fight, I guess. There's a big hopelessness that comes with being somebody's muse. "Lonely and forgotten is the fact that the sentence ends the song but also seems to be cut in half is really interesting to me. I think this could represent the sort of lack of power that you have in those kind of relationships when you never get the last word. This also shows the frustration of Halsey. I mean, in this line, she's just fully performing metal screams. This is how you end a song in a way that will make everybody's jaw drop on the floor. This, after my initial listen, was my favorite song of the entire album. And if you don't have this in your say top 5 favorites off of this album, I do think you're wrong. I'm gonna respect your opinion, but I do think that you're wrong. But my God, this is just the anger, the instrumental, the aggression, the vocal. This song is genuinely one of the best things I've ever heard in my life. And I'm saying this for I don't know which time in this video. This album is insane.
Arsonist, burning down the world to feel its heat.
Arsonist is the 13th song off of this record, and it was inspired by Fiona Apple. And much in the same vein as, for example, Dog Years or Darwinism, this is a very creepy song. It's genuinely so eerie in the way that it's produced itself. And I mean, listen, this literally starts with a speech from Halsey that is reverted. Like, when you first hear it, it honestly feels like she's placing a hex on you. In that speech, she says, "A God that you met with some self-disguise as God, but you think that you met a God that justifies all of your actions and agrees with everything that you've done." So this, to me, is very interesting in the context of the entire song, because what I think this means is somebody is trying to be God, but in the end, that persona ends up being not much more than just a costume. This person made it seem like God would agree upon every action they took. It's really interesting when we later get to hear the chorus for the song. "Arsonist, burning down the world to feel its heat. The arsonist doesn't feel the embers on his feet. Arsonist, your human starter kit came incomplete. My apologies, arsonist, you loved me." This to me means that the person burns their entire world because they're being neglected by it. So in order to feel some warmth, they just burn everything. However, this person also lacks some human qualities to them. And then the last line. Okay, from what I was able to gather, I think that this is relating to one of Halsey's ex-partners. I don't like sitting in here and being like, oh my God, who's the song about? Which of the boyfriends? I don't like doing that, but I feel like for this specific song, it could be important context, so I'm just gonna give it to you. Apparently his name was Aleph, and that in Turkish means fire. So honestly, I think this theory makes sense. I'm glued to a building that's on fire, handcuffed to a narcissistic liar. This situation is clearly bad for Halsey, and I mean, they can recognize it themselves, but for some reason, they are unable to escape it. Can I take the blame for everything you hate? The punishment and crime are not the same. Somebody will love me for the way that I'm designed. This is referring to the balance between punishment and crime, or, well, the balance that is supposed to exist between punishment and crime. One isn't supposed to outweigh the other. They're supposed to be proportional to each other, but Halsey doesn't feel like that's the case. You built a small container to keep all of me confined. I am water, I am shapeless, I am fluid, I'm divine. Somebody will love me for the way that I'm designed. This shows the contraposition between Halsey and the titular Arsonist. Halsey is water and Arsonist obviously is going to be associated with fire. They do, however, also state that no container can keep them confined, which I find really interesting. That person can limit their space and almost hold them a prisoner, but water has an ability to erode through whatever container it's being kept in. Halsey also believes that there's gonna be somebody that one day they're gonna encounter who's gonna love them for the shape that they are in and won't try to put them in a box. You leave me sleeping in the dark so you can hide away your blade. Unlock the door and trap me right here in the blaze. This person is almost like conspiring against them, trying to make Halsey's life worse, but also not admitting to it and hiding the evidence. Did you know the father's DNA stays inside the mother for 7 years? Have you ever waited 7 years? Halsey asks this person whether they've ever had to wait this long to fully get rid of somebody, like now she has to wait. And then the closing verses. Oh my God. Have you ever woken from a dream just to realize that you're still asleep? Do you ever wish you were still asleep? Do you ever wish you wouldn't wake up? So I don't think that these questions are being asked to the Arsonist, but rather to us, the listeners. This to me feels like Halsey reaching out to us, asking us whether we've had similar experiences and felt the way that she does. We see those themes earlier in the album, the loneliness and the abandonment that she felt. Halsey almost searches for people who have those similar experiences, who are built more like her. This song is very, very complicated. I low-key feel like I only scratched the surface of this song, but I hope that it was somewhat enough for this, quicker analysis, and that now we can move on to the 5 final songs of this project. Let's keep rolling.
'Cause I'm the spider in your bathroom, I'm the shadow on the tile.
Halsey themselves said that this song is one of the saddest songs they've ever written, and I agree. Life of a Spider Draft was inspired by Tori Amos, which we can see by, for example, the instrumental piano. But truly, this song is the epitome of heartbreak. I love acting in music, and what I mean by that is when an artist can sing a song and deliver a message through stuff other than the words, like for example how they enunciate them, how they sing them. But this song was a little much for me when it comes to that factor. This took a lot of emotional strength to finish and to re-listen for this video. This is one of those songs that I very much skip on a daily basis because oh my God. But that just kind of shows you how a simple song that is basically constructed from a voice and a piano can be so incredibly touching, just like, those more heightened production. I feel like a monster and it doesn't help that you treat me like I've got venom in my teeth. This song is about the treatment of people who are sick by their partners, and it is specifically inspired by Halsey's experiences with that. They feel like they are a monster and like the other person is almost disgusted by them. Because I'm the spider in your bathroom. I'm the shadow on the tile. I came for shelter from the cold, and I thought I'd stay a while. She thought she could find refuge in this person, the one anchor in a very stormy period of her life, almost like an ark, you know, calling it back to the end where we saw the theme of Noah's Ark. I'm only small, I'm only weak, and you jump at the sight of me. You'll kill me when I least expect it. God, how could I even think of daring to exist? Looking just like this. I'm hideous. This furthers that story. We see that this person that is supposed to be a caregiver for the loved one does anything but that. They make Halsey feel like a burden and are lowering her self-esteem levels in a time that is already very crucial for her health. Situations like this are obviously tough for everybody involved, but the last thing you should be doing when a loved one is sick is make them feel like a burden or like they are to blame for simply trying to exist. You dangle me high over the drain and tell me I'm lucky you don't drop me there. This is also that feeling of dependence. You once knew this person and they treated you well, but now they don't. However, you still remember that time when everything was great, so you can't really reject them. And also, this is a very dark period of your life, so rejecting the only thing that feels like, you know, constant, solid ground is a scary thought. I should be getting better, but I'm only getting worse. And God, how dare I even think of choosing here to die? Because then I'm just a problem that you have to take outside. Furthering the theme of self-blaming, the situation only gets worse once your health also worsens. Because I'm the spider on the ceiling and you're nothing but a guy. You don't like it when I cry. You will break me if you tried, and you will, because I dared to be alive. This line delivery is what I was speaking about in the beginning.
You don't like it when I cry. You would break me if you tried.
This is that example of the toxic environment. This person doesn't like to see Halsey cry, but is also actively doing things to ruin the situation even more. It's almost like they hate Halsey for simply trying to stay alive, and it's heartbreaking. As I said in the beginning, this is one of the only songs on this album. Well, okay, that's a stretch. Not one of the only songs. There are many songs on this album that I actively skip. But my God, to hear somebody say stuff like that and then learn they actually had to go through this is absolutely heartbreaking. But what I do hope for is that songs like these, despite how sad they can be for others to hear, can also create refuge for others and show them that they are not alone in their struggles. I think that if that is the case for the song, that's incredibly beautiful.
Wash me in the water, you can cut off all my hair.
Going into this album, Hurt Feelings was one of those songs that intrigued me the most because of, well, mainly its impersonation. That being, of course, Halsey herself from her Badlands era. Now, obviously, I wasn't really paying too much attention during that era. I wasn't necessarily a Halsey stan during that time. I was, well, I don't even know what year that was, but I'm sure that I was doing other more important things, I guess. But still, this intrigued me a lot. Like, how would it sound like and what would it be about? This concept had the potential of being absolutely incredible. And guess what? It turned out to be absolutely incredible. This is one of my favorite songs off of the entire project. Like, it's so weirdly whimsical. I love the effects, I love the synths, and it just all makes perfect sense to me. I also think that this song is one of the vocal highlights of the entire project for me. This chorus sends you straight into heaven. This song kind of feels like it's an act of retroactive healing. It's acknowledging the past and the parental trauma, but it's also noticing that you're not like the person that caused you that hurt and that you're stronger than them. My dad is almost home. I can't tell time yet, but I know, because the air becomes electric and my mother cleans the stove. He'll walk in through the door and both my eyes will find the floor. And I will search my brain to find something I might get yelled at for. This sets the scene and kind of shows us what sort of environment Halsey grew up in. It also shows us the sort of patterns that Halsey had to get used to in order to have a more peaceful life with their parents. And in a few years, I will leave. But I'll perpetually believe that any man who says he loves me is hiding something up his sleeve. This shows us how parental trauma or just trauma in general can affect your relationships. And I mean, we see that plenty in this album. Just look no further than, like, I don't know, Panic Attack. Wash me in the water. You can cut off all my hair. I'll be changing like the weather, but I'll never be like him. Halsey here wants to have a fresh start, have all of the trauma cleansed, just start again. That can be symbolized by getting washed by the water or cutting off your hair. Halsey here also states that they might be evolving a lot, but under no circumstances will they ever be like the person that caused them harm in the past. And I don't have souvenirs of all the earliest of years. You know, my father isn't dead, but I don't feel like he's still here. It's strange now that he's grey and getting older by the day, and my eyes tell me that he's harmless despite what my heart has to say. The happy memories from her childhood basically don't exist because they are tarnished by the family problems that she had to deal with. Her father used to be almost like a dark void that wasn't being felt by anybody because Halsey couldn't rely on him. But we also see here that the relationship sort of did improve. Halsey doesn't view their father as a possible danger anymore, probably because of their age. But there is still that like worry in the back of their head, like the what if we return to what we were before? Because blood is thick, but water is forever. This probably refers to Halsey's view on family, and there's this very popular saying that blood is thicker than the water, which basically means that there is nothing stronger than family bonds. Halsey reinterprets that. Blood might be thick and might be important, but it's clear that those bonds that are formed by the water can also be important or can be even more important than the blood ones. And that girl will be a problem only if you let her. And I left her back home, but I cannot forget her. Halsey is ultimately an armor. It's a character. So this line, in my opinion, clearly refers to Ashley and not Halsey. She was left at home and then the armor of Halsey was created, but that doesn't mean that Halsey has forgotten about her past self. But I can't keep up the illusion or confirm your point of view, or I can bear to fake a smile when you walk into the room. Earlier, Halsey also says that now they are the ones chasing their father through a park, which basically means that they are still looking for that father-daughter bond, even now that they're an adult. But in these lines, we also see that they're not completely over the hurt and that there is still something standing in the way of a full relationship being developed. This song shows off how trauma works, and I think that's very important, and I think a lot of people could learn something from that. And aside from a very, I think, important message to have, especially in today's day and age, I also, again, still just love how the song sounds. It's absolutely gorgeous.
'Cause I'm so lucky. I'm a star.
Lucky is a track inspired by Britney Spears, specifically by a song that has the same title from Britney's discography. This song is about how fame works, but specifically from the perspective of an artist, and also how the internet and the media make life worse. Out of all the songs on this project, I would say that this is probably the most like straightforward one. But I honestly think that's a good thing because not everybody, as we clearly saw from the response to this album, is gonna look for the deeper meanings or is gonna try to decipher the metaphors. Sometimes, unfortunately, you just have to serve it on the plate. And while she's losing so much weight, I heard this from the drugs she ate. And I feel her, but I can't relate because I never end up in that state. Here, Halsey shows how the media talks about them. People can recognize their story, they can feel bad for you, but ultimately they're not gonna go too far in feeling that way because ultimately they can't relate. A celebrity at one point just stops being a person. They become a brand, and you can't really relate to a brand. I shaved my head 4 times because I wanted to, and then I did it one more time because I got sick. I am so lucky. So this is kind of like a sarcastic outlook on it. Previously, Halsey would switch her hairstyles a lot throughout different eras, but now they were forced to do it because of their illness. And then we hear the I'm so lucky. I mean, look at how lucky she is to be a star, isn't she? Everything is going great. When you're a star, when you're a celebrity, nothing can go wrong in your life, clearly. And I told everybody I was fine for a whole damn year. And that's the biggest lie of my career. This line, to me, encapsulates the entire project. This shows off the duality of life that a person in the spotlight has to lead. If something is happening behind closed doors, can you even tell the people what's going on? Or can you count on them to understand your story? Sometimes it's just easier to lie about it. I also think that this song being a direct reference to Britney was done on purpose. If you don't know, Britney has had a very tough career with the whole custody thing, and she also did shave her head, which caused a lot of media outbreak. The media were throwing this rhetoric around of, oh, she's crazy now. Once she stopped pretending to be fine, everybody thought she was like a crazed woman. That's why you lie about those things, because what if people react the same way they did to Britney? This song will probably be important down the line when we talk about the reception that this album got, so keep this section in mind. But to summarize this section, be kinder to people online. Just be kinder.
Please God, or whoever you are.
Letter to God 1998. Wow, another heartbreak incoming. This song was inspired by Aaliyah and contains some recordings of Halsey's son, which that was beautiful, but also that first listening experience, this is the 17th track. I was already exhausted. And then I heard those recordings and I was like, okay, I don't think I have it in me to continue crying.
Say, how are you, Eddie? How nice to meet you.
And I've been trying to be calm and not preemptively destroy. I wonder who here really loves me or who wants to be employed. Doubting in the feeling of those around you, feeling like they're just there for the money or the clout. That constant possibility of betrayal leaves you feeling almost like paranoid, and thus creates a possibility for you to preemptively destroy possible relationships that aren't actually containing those like ulterior motives to them. And stay at home all by my lonesome with my little baby boy. And I watch him on the kitchen floor. He's playing with his toys. And I don't ever want to leave him, but I don't think it's my choice. So I'm basking in these moments where I felt a shred of joy. That one oasis where you felt a shred of joy. It's so beautiful. Please God, I'm finally loved. I finally found somebody I don't want to get rid of. This obviously calls back to the previous letters to God that we've had, but here there is a clear difference. She finally found somebody that she doesn't want to get rid of. And it also doesn't feel like anybody is actively trying to get rid of her. She is finally in a happy place, whether it's closed off or not. Please God, is it busy up there? You took a little while to respond to my prayers. So this refers to the previous prayers that seem to be both delayed and also twisted against Halsey. Please God, no, this doesn't seem fair. I'm trying not to show it, but I'm terribly scared. Her voice in this part. Knife to the heart, actually. This song is incredibly beautiful with how the vocals are layered, but there's this real feel of sadness to it as well, or uncertainty or fear. Something like that. This is the second to last track on the standard edition of this album. And I would say that it does a pretty good job of closing off some of these themes that we've seen throughout the album. Even if it isn't, the happiest of endings, we see Halsey finally find a person that she feels loved by and that she is able to love. And I think that's beautiful. It wraps up so many themes that we've seen throughout the album, but it doesn't wrap up every single theme.
In here lies the great impersonator.
The title track, inspired by Björk, is called The Great Impersonator. I love this song. I actually truly adore it. It's one of my absolute favorites on the entire project. This sound is again so like whimsical and carefree, but also does have that like little creepy undertone to it that kind of gives away the seriousness of the situation that we're talking about here. And this, in my opinion, wraps up Halsey's commentary on how the media treat her. No one has to know. I could always hide, but sometimes it might get to me, the things on all their minds. So this comes back to Lucky, where we see some of those like rumors and speculations thrown around about them, and also shows that Halsey ultimately does care about them. She is frustrated by the fact that ultimately everybody is misunderstanding her story. Does a story die with its narrator? Surely it's forgotten sooner or later. Hope they spell my name right in the paper. And here lies the great impersonator. This is kind of the fear of being forgotten, but also maybe like the story being twisted after the artist who's telling it is now gone. That twisting can be, for example, misspelling Halsey's name. The great impersonator here is Halsey, or rather Ashley, who is just incredible at impersonating Halsey. I'm lying in a car crash in a pile of broken glass. It's funny how it looks like glitter from the overpass. This shows you how perspective matters. So from the side of the media or from the fan perspective, Halsey's life is nothing but glitter, glitz, glam. But if you actually come close, you see that all of that glitter is just shadows of things falling apart around her. This is further continued in the next lines. This is a cry for help, calling for assistance, but you can tell I need it when you're watching from a distance. I mean, exactly. We don't know what's happening until Halsey tells us, but that doesn't stop us from judging whatever is going on. And this brings me to my final thoughts about maybe not necessarily the album, but the reception that it got. There's a certain YouTuber who said that this album is the manifestation of main character syndrome. Fellas, is it a main character syndrome to have cancer and write some songs about it? Fellas, is it a main character syndrome to be a single mother and be struggling with that? Fellas, is it a main character syndrome thing to have trauma? Like, come on. I understand that this album is very heavy and it can feel overwhelming. It definitely does at some points. But also, artists do this all the time. This is what art is nowadays. It's sharing your own experiences. If artist goes through, let's say, a breakup and writes an album about it, it's a normal thing to witness. Well, typically, if you're Taylor Swift doing this, you're a problem. And not to be the friend that's too woke, but I honestly feel like the response to this album would look slightly different if it was sung by a man. I also feel like this very formulaic way of reviewing music just doesn't work anymore. We are bringing down music to these preconceived categories that, in my opinion, strip it off of its meaning and its personality, and that is horrible to see. Not all art can be measured by the same tools that you typically use. And this album is one of those. I mean, this album is clearly for the art and not for the charts. And also the Impersonator thing, I guess, confused some people. But like, honestly, what were y'all expecting? Oh, there's a Dolly Parton song, so she's gonna sound exactly like Dolly Parton and just be like, boing, boing, boing. Hi, my name is Dolly Parton, gays love me, boing, boing, boing. Like, that's not how it works. I feel like the concept for this album is so easy to understand, at least to me. It's such an easy concept to grasp that this is a commentary on how the music industry works. But some of y'all are acting like this is freaking quantum physics. And going back to that YouTuber or the Pitchfork review for it, it almost seems like they were avoiding talking about the story of this album on purpose. Maybe all that expertise that these people seem to have actually is only standing in the way of them understanding art on a level that is below the surface. It seemed like they were creating this like fake scenario and taking things out of context to paint Halsey as this like artist with like a victim complex for having a life-threatening illness. That's why I think that low-key, the way Halsey responded to, for example, the Pitchfork review was actually genius. She took the sentences that had some like praise towards them, like for example, incredible singles artist or something like that. I believe that was on there, and took them out of context to make it seem like Pitchfork actually really loved her album. Like, if that's not a 3D chess move, then I don't know what is. I mean, I guess they got the taste of their own medicine, didn't they? So yeah, my parting message to those people would be, take more time with reviewing music. Take some time, let the music sit with you, understand its meaning, do your research. Take some time to actually understand the project that you're supposed to be grading. Not every project can be judged right after hearing it. Having to spend some time to think about a piece of music isn't a bad thing like you're trying to paint it as. If you see a vulnerable project like this, maybe either don't judge it for the sake of judging, or at least be more compassionate. You know, I'm not telling you that you have to love this album. You don't have to love this album. I understand that it's not for everybody. It is an acquired taste. You can critique it and say that, for example, oh, I didn't like Lonely is the Muse, or I didn't like Arsonist because it was too mid-tempo, or I didn't like Lucky because it was too close to the original Lucky by Britney Spears. You can have like constructive opinions about a piece of music without taking jobs on an artist that made it, you know? It's really not that difficult. Albums like these should be appreciated because they can be of help to people. These people can feel seen, they can feel understood, and ultimately, that is the most important thing here. That brings me to my final thoughts on this entire project. This is not an easy listen, but it's a life-changing listen nonetheless. Every single one of these songs is incredible. I don't actively listen to all of these songs because, again, very sad, but this project is just immaculately produced. A lot of effort went into it. This isn't an album that somebody threw together in 17 days. Let's just say that. This is also some of the best lyricism I think I've seen in a long time. The aesthetic is banging, the music is incredible, and you can tell that Halsey put her entire heart into this project. This is a 10 out of 10, would recommend, but prepare some tissues because you will end up crying while listening to this. So this is it for me today, but I wanted to take a quick moment to kind of thank you guys for the support on a couple of my other videos and also for the support on this channel. It's genuinely been so incredible to see that you guys still want to see videos from me. I feel like I sort of started to form a concept of what I want this channel to be. And that concept can be pretty much summed up as me yapping about things that I loved growing up and that I still love now. And I think that's very much the case with a lot of the stuff that I'm gonna be working on in the next coming of days. Obviously, more videos about some tailored projects are coming soon. We're gonna be tackling, wait, I'm gonna get it. We're gonna be tackling this bad boy. This is my copy of Rancher's Apprentice. This is in Polish, but I'm obviously gonna be making a video about it in English. It's gonna be like a recap, review, analysis video, kind of, you know, like a whiteboard style video, but I really want to do it because I don't think people talk enough about this fantasy series. I feel like we need to start talking about it more. I'm gonna be also talking about a little, not very well-known show called Merlin. You know, the one with the very famous queer baiting. I'm also going to be tackling Percy Jackson, specifically the first book and the first season of the show because I love Percy Jackson. And there's going to be more music coverage. We're going to talk about folklore very soon. And for all of my Eurovision lovers out there who only come to this channel for my Eurovision content, there's going to be a video very soon where I'm going to be roasting every single Polish Eurovision entry. Again, I am from Poland, to ever grace the Eurovision stage. And I feel like that's going to be very fun. So yeah, stay tuned for that. There's going to be, I want to say, around 4 videos per month. And I'm going to try to use my time as best as I can now that I have, you know, kind of like an holiday season approaching now that I wrapped up my first year of uni. So I'm gonna be definitely staying a little bit more in my creative bag with things, and I'm really, really excited about the upcoming content. I hope that you guys will enjoy it, and I hope that this sounds promising to you and that this sounds like something that you would potentially enjoy in the future. So yeah, that's just kind of like all that I have to say for now. Thank you so much for your continued support. Make sure to subscribe to my channel, like the video, follow me on all of my socials, which are listed in the description. Those include Twitter, Tumblr, TikTok, and Instagram. And take care. Take care. Maybe go listen to the great Impersonator. And I will see you very, very soon for another video, probably with an improved backdrop, or maybe not, but we're gonna see. And yeah, until then, take care. I love you very, very much. And thank you so much for watching. Bye.